Hello there to all of you humans, pencils, beavers and lizards watching today. So I thought, today, we'd return to doing tier lists, as it's safe to say it's been a while since we last did one. In this video, I will be ranking every Dragon Ball game on Roblox based on my own personal opinion. That's assuming I didn't miss out on any like the imbecile I can be sometimes. Let me know if I did down in the comments below. But anyway, let's get into creating this cool little tier list of ours. So, here we are on the legendary tiermaker.com website. I have made a public tier list with every Dragon Ball game on Roblox. It's also in the description and on the pinned comment if you want to make one of your own. Before we actually begin on the tier list, I want to clarify that this isn't like a factual tier list or anything. It's just my own opinion based on playing each game for a bit. You might disagree and that's fine. Absolutely let me know where you personally think I'm wrong or if I've gotten any details wrong. But let's begin the tier list, and the first game on the list is Dragon Ball Legendary Forces. This isn't a game I had played before prior to the video, so it was a new experience for me. I think based on the 20 or so minutes I spent playing the game, it absolutely has the groundwork to be a great game. The graphics are among the best I saw during the recording of this video, although I believe that they are inconsistent in some areas. However, I also don't think there's enough direction for new players to really understand the game other than the Goku NPC at the start. You have to fly around to kind of get a gist of what the game's all about, and that might throw some new players off. I'm not sure, maybe that's the intended aim. If so, then fair enough. I think ultimately, I'm going to put Legendary Forces in the B tier. It's absolutely promising and has the groundworks to succeed as I said before, but otherwise I think there's room to improve. That's not necessarily a bad thing though. So next up on our list is Key Battlegrounds, and straight away upon playing the game I was impressed. If you're a fan of Battlegrounds style games, you'll definitely enjoy Key Battlegrounds. While there's not much character variation compared to other Battleground games, with only Goku and Vegeta being playable for free-to-play players, and players with early access also having Frieza to play as, the game is an extremely smooth play overall, and one that I enjoyed. The movesets are unique and interesting, and functions such as dashing are, at least from my experience, low lag and smooth. One criticism I do have is that I feel the map is quite plain compared to other games of its genre, like Strongest Battlegrounds and Z Battlegrounds. The terrain isn't much of a factor in fights, so you don't have to be as worried about bumping into something mid-fight. All in all though, while I'm not a player of Battlegrounds games personally, I did enjoy Key Battlegrounds. So for all of these reasons, I'm going to put Key Battlegrounds in the A tier of this tier list. So, next up on our list is Dragon Ball Warriors. Now to be clear, before I state my opinion, this is just my opinion. If you enjoy this game, then you enjoy it, I don't judge at all, but if I'm being 100% honest, I was disappointed. It's not an absolutely terrible game by any stretch, but to me it just comes across as clunky and slow. There's a lot of things that don't make any sense. Within 2 minutes of playing, I was already attaining god-level forms like Ultra Instinct. I also feel like it's way too similar to 2017 Dragon Ball Rage, to the point where the keybinds are the same, and the animations are very similar. I do like the map, though. It's detailed and it's worth exploring, but overall, I was just disappointed by this game. Again, this is just my opinion, I don't mean to come across as rude or disrespectful, but it's just not a game I'd play. With all of this considered, I do have to put it in the D tier. Respectfully, it's just not something I'll probably play again. On another note, if you're enjoying the video so far or finding it informative, you should definitely subscribe to my channel, and turn on all notifications while you're at it. Our aim for this year is to hit 30,000 subscribers, so you'd be an absolute Chad if you were to help out with that. But let's move on to the next game, and the next game is Dragon Ball Revenge. I think Revenge suffers from the same issue as Warriors in the sense that you get too much 2017 Rage vibes from it, but I feel as though Revenge is overall smoother and more visually appealing. The graphics are among the better of the games shown on this video, and I do feel as though it's more realistic. So overall, while I do think Revenge is a solid game, I think it suffers from a lack of personality. There's nothing about it that stands out compared to other Dragon Ball games on Roblox, it's just there, I guess. So, I'm going to place it in the C tier. I'd say the overall quality of the game would ordinarily put it around the B tier, but I just don't see anything that makes it unique. So the next game on our list is one I'm sure we've all played at one point or another, and that's Super Evolution. It follows the same style as the old superhero training simulator that was popular in 2019, I think. I might be wrong on that. But it takes superhero training sim and adds a few interesting spins on it, such as Dragon Ball transformations, the capsule system and so on. I think the fact that it's based on another game would ordinarily take a few points from it for me. The fact that it also has its own spin on things and adds its own ideas, is enough to somewhat make up for it. However, on another note, I'm not a fan of some of the graphics on this game. The buildings and such are great, it's just, those trees. The leaves are 2D. And that's terrifying. No, but in all seriousness, I like some graphics, and others I don't. I suppose that's how everybody feels on every Roblox game though. But all of this being said, I decided on Super Evolution going into the B tier, slightly below Legendary Forces. But anyway, on to our next game, and we are now moving on to Dragon Ball Hyper Blood. Now the first impression was promising, I have to admit. The tutorial is simple and easy to understand, and it basically explains everything you need to know about the game. But from that point forward, I just thought it was downhill. Mind you, I only played for about 15 minutes total, so I didn't get the full experience. I absolutely encourage everybody watching to play these games yourself, because your opinion might be different to mine. But my opinion was that the user interface is outdated, and on top of that, the controls were laggy and clunky. Combat is strange, to say the least, because sometimes you just come out with a Kamehameha out of nowhere. I don't know if that's supposed to be part of the combo system, but it just felt odd to me. The game's map itself is actually not too bad, it's well built and unique, so it gets some points for that. But my overall thoughts are that, it clearly has a vision, and kudos for that, but in its current stage, I was just disappointed all around, and for that reason, I do unfortunately have to put it in the D tier. I'll put it above Dragon Ball Warriors just because of the vision you can clearly see from the game, and it's very unique and ambitious, which is respectable, but in my opinion, there's a lot of work to be done. You might disagree, as I keep reiterating. But yeah, that's my placement for it. Now the next game on the list is a bit of a standout, and that game is Dragon Ball Tycoon. Now, to be honest, tycoons are a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine. I love them. Even if you only play them once at a time and never play them again. So I did enjoy Dragon Ball Tycoon a lot. But realistically, I think Dragon Ball Tycoon is simplistic and out of date. In terms of innovation, there's very little, and it's just a Dragon Ball reskin of the usual Tycoon game. And on top of that, I kept getting attacked by a violent sword fighter. But to be honest, there's not a great deal of Dragon Ball in it other than some weapons, skins and team names. But at the same time, I can't sit here and pretend I didn't enjoy it, because I did. But from a realistic opinion, it does have to go in the bottom of the D tier. For me, I could play it once and have a lot of fun, but then I'd never play it again, but I do that with pretty much every Tycoon game. My love of tycoons doesn't really do enough to overcome the fact that this game doesn't really do much overall. Level of fun for a one-time playthrough is comfortably medium B tier, but quality is in the D tier for me. So next up on this tier list is Dragon Ball Roleplay, Azure. The first thing that immediately stood out to me is how detailed this game is. I was legitimately impressed with the amount of race and character choices, as well as how much detail has been given to each character, races and such. This also applies to the map, it feels alive, and from what I saw, there was always something to discover. From what I saw, the main focal point of potential criticism is that most transformation sequences seem to be rather generic, and they feel out of place in a game with otherwise such varied and detailed graphics and models. But otherwise it's clear to see why role players love this game. Overall, I was genuinely impressed, and for me, Azure absolutely deserves to be at the top of the B tier, and to be honest I wouldn't disagree if you think it deserves to be in the A tier. Now the next game on this list is Dragon Ball Xeno Multiverse. Now I've been honest and transparent about my views on each game so far in this video. And, I only have one word for it that describes my thoughts on it. Wow! This game is absolutely incredible. I actually ended up going over the 20 minutes I'm spending on each game just to enjoy it more. I was absolutely stunned. The graphics are incredible even though I saw the return of 2D leaves, the combat is remarkable and detailed, the cutscenes are among the best I've seen on any Roblox game. I'm sorry but Xeno Multiverse is an S tier game, up there with the best on Roblox. It just is. I'm even gonna go straight back to it after I've got this video finished.
2 days later.
Anyway, my fang-erling aside, let's move on to the next game. The next game is Saiyan Battlegrounds, and to be honest, I wasn't as much of a fan as I was Key Battlegrounds. Two things that it does have over Key Battlegrounds is increased character variation, as well as a better and more detailed map, but the overall quality seems to be lower to me. I think it's a promising game that can get somewhere, just needs some polishing here and there. It also seemed laggy, but I think that was because of poor internet on my end, because my internet was being dodgy to be fair, so I won't count the lag here. Otherwise, there's not much for me to say as I'm not much of a Battlegrounds player. So I'm going to put Saiyan Battlegrounds in the middle of the B tier. But our next game is one that's been incredibly hyped up recently, and that is Dragon Ball Nexus. To be honest, this was another absolute wow. Let's just get this clear before we speak any further. Nexus is another S tier. While it is a demo, and we do have to take that into account, I have no doubt in my mind that the game will continue to get even better. The production quality is comparable to Xeno Multiverse. The combat reminds me of the Xenoverse series, and the cutscenes and overall quality of the game is very difficult to rival. Nexus will only get better by the looks of things. Now the next game on our list is Dragon Ball Mortals 4, and to be honest I was unsure where to put this one, because while I was impressed by some graphics, others were disappointing. The interface also seems outdated in my opinion. However, the animations on the other hand are actually quite good. I really was unsure of where to put it because I like 50% of it and I'm not a big fan of the other 50% of it, so I guess in the end I put it in the C tier. I wasn't actually sure what I was supposed to do, and it's a real 50-50 in terms of enjoyability to be honest. But it's not bad, I guess I just wasn't sure what the direction was. That might just be a me thing. But anyway, the next game we'll be covering is Z Battlegrounds. I think this is the best of the Dragon Ball Battlegrounds games to be frank. There is an extremely wide character variation, it has a few unique features such as quests, fusion and whatnot, and it also, in my opinion, has the best map design. I also find the combat to be the smoothest and most unique of all three Dragon Ball Battleground games. Overall, I think it replaces Key Battlegrounds at the top of the A tier. While both are great, I just think Z Battlegrounds has that special uniqueness factor to it that puts it ahead overall. And it just had to happen, didn't it? We now move on to the game I cover most on this channel, Dragon Ball Rage. Now, I think Dragon Ball Rage is the best of the grinding style Dragon Ball games on Roblox. Heck, it's basically the game where the grinding style started. It's unique, smooth, and particularly over the last year, it has evolved into an incredible game, and continues to do so with every update. So I decided to place Dragon Ball Rage at the top of the A tier. This might be influenced by bias on my part, but I just think it's probably up there with the smoothest to play Dragon Ball games on the website. Now next up on our list is Dragon Ball Final, and this was an interesting one, because it's come on a lot since I last played, so to see how it's improved was quite the experience. It clearly has the groundwork sorted and is graphically better than I recall, and it seems the combat has improved plenty too. It's all a lot better than I remember. It has a lot of unique features, such as fighting stances and the option to change some of your animations. So overall, I do think Final deserves to be in the A tier, and again, right at the top, ahead of Dragon Ball Rage. So, we only have 7 more games left to cover, and the next one is Dragon Blox Ultimate. Now to be honest, Dragon Blox Ultimate is a high quality game. The combat is decent, the graphics are among the better of the Dragon Ball games, and overall it's a solid game. However, I think it also has the same issue as Dragon Ball Revenge in that it struggles to stand out. It does have a few things like the good and evil system that help a bit, they're not game changing, so while I do think it does fare slightly better overall, it does still get lost in the shuffle, I think. Ultimate does have a good overall quality, so I'm going to put it in the B tier, but it's hard for me to put it any higher, just because of the uniqueness factor. Next up on our list is Dragon Ball XL, and I think it's in a similar boat to Legendary Forces, to be honest. It has the groundwork sorted out as a game, it clearly has a vision, I just think it has a ways to go before it gets there. One prominent issue I do have with XL is that the interface seems all over the place. I counted the main menu and the health bar combined have a total of 6 fonts, along with colors that I think are displaced, and in my opinion, it would just look cleaner if you consistently settled with the one font. Otherwise, it's very similar to Legendary Forces, as I said, and there's also similar levels of quality. So I'll put it in the B tier, but slightly behind Legendary Forces due to the interface issue. I enjoyed it for sure though. So we're down to the last 5, and next up is Final Stand. Now, Final Stand back in 2017-ish was just an incredible game. Along with Dragon Ball Rage, it was one of the games that helped shape the Dragon Ball scene on Roblox as it is today. It's become dated over time, though. While the combat still holds up and it remains a very unique and fun game today in its own right, you can clearly tell it's a game from 2017. However, the game still absolutely holds up fine. So with all that being said, ultimately I decided to put Final Stand in the upper end of the B tier. That might be a controversial choice for some of you, though. Anyway, it also occurred to me that I missed Dragon Blox, so I added that. So next up on our list is Dragon Ball Evolution, and I have played this before. It's a really impressive game to be honest, because it keeps up graphically while also maintaining its uniqueness, with things like a unique story mode, and raid bosses being added quite regularly. Overall, Evolution is a pleasant surprise, so I decided it goes at the top of the B tier. It would also be hard for me to argue if you were to put it in the A tier. Now next up is what I believe to be the next big thing in the Dragon Ball Roblox community, and that's Dragon Soul. As it stands currently, I think Soul is no doubt the best Dragon Ball game on Roblox, in a graphical sense, in an originality sense, and in an overall sense. It has a unique story mode, functions unique to itself such as, to name one of many, a trainable Kaioken, and it only gets better with every update. Honestly, it really is something special. So with all that considered, Soul has to go at the top of the S tier. There is not a game on Roblox that I enjoy playing more, actually. Anyway, we are now actually on the last 3 games. Next up is Dragon Ball R, and my first opinion is that it's similar to Dragon Ball Mortals, but more complete in my opinion. I was impressed to be honest because this seems really unique. I wasn't able to play for too long because it was getting late at the time I played, but from what I was able to play, I had a lot of fun. My biggest complaint is that the interface is, in my opinion, weak compared to the rest of the game. And to be honest, while the game does have one of the better combat systems on this list, the game feels rather dated to me. But overall, yeah, it's solid. So I'm going to place it around the lower middle of the B tier. So next up is Online Generations, but unfortunately it was down for patching when I attempted to play it. So I'll probably tier it in the comment section when it's replayable, but for now we'll give it a separate tier. For what it's worth, my Discord server and other servers I ask generally put it around the B tier. But we'll move on to Dragon Blox, which is the final game of our tier list. Dragon Blox is all around a really fun experience, and although I haven't played it in a while, I think all around it's fantastic. It's probably one of the best graphically, and there's always something new to do whenever you finish with something else, although sometimes it may be off-putting how much there actually is in the game, and could intimidate new players. But I would put it in the middle of the A tier. But yeah, that's it for the tier list. We're finally finished, and drop a kudos in the comment section if you got this far. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like on the video, and also make sure to not only subscribe to my channel, but also turn on all notifications, so that you're among the first to know when I upload. But that's all for today. I will see you all in the next one. Sayonara, humans.